Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving right in to visually deconstruct one of the absolute most magnificent structures ever built, the Konark Sun Temple. We're going to break down exactly how this ancient 13th century stone chariot was so masterfully designed. By pulling apart its imagery and structural choices, we'll see how this monument is so much more than just a building. It is literally a massive, highly functional piece of art.
There's this profound observation from the great poet Rabindranath Tagore that I think sets the stage perfectly. He said, "Here the language of stone surpasses the language of man." And wow, doesn't that just perfectly capture the majesty of this place? When you're looking at the Konark Sun Temple, you aren't just looking at architecture. You're taking in an entire visual vocabulary, a language of stone that communicates across centuries, expressing ideas that are honestly almost too grand for human speech.
And this leads us to the central mystery for our explainer today. So how exactly did a 13th century temple, constructed out of incredibly heavy, dark stone, become one of the world's most mathematically precise timepieces? It's such a fascinating paradox. We're going to explore how the builders pull this off, seamlessly fusing this overwhelming, dominant visual style with mind-boggling scientific utility.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the Grand Stone Chariot. Visionary scale.
First up, what's super fascinating here is how the very name of the temple acts as a blueprint for its entire visual design. Konark is a mashup of two Sanskrit words, Kona, meaning corner or angle, and Arka, meaning the sun. Since it's located right on the eastern coastline of India, that angular, sun-facing orientation is implied right there in the name itself. It's dedicated to the Hindu sun god Surya, so it's appropriately also known as the Surya Devalaya.
Okay. Now I want you to imagine the sheer scale behind the number 100. The entire temple complex is designed to look like a colossal solar chariot standing an incredible 100 feet high. Just picture that for a second. A 100-foot-high vehicle, completely carved out of solid stone, just dominating the landscape. Built under King Narasimhadeva I around 1250 CE, constructing a monument of this immense visionary size back in the 13th century was an absolute masterclass in structural engineering.
Then we have the number 24. And this is where the mathematical rhythm of the temple's aesthetic really comes alive. The base of the temple is adorned with exactly 24 gorgeously decorated wheels arranged perfectly in 2 rows of 12 on each side. It creates this mesmerizing symmetry, right? It visually anchors that massive 100-foot frame to the earth, using a highly specific repeated pattern.
But, of course, you can't have a massive chariot without something to pull it. The architects carved 7 spirited stone horses right at the front, actively pulling this colossal vehicle forward. And their inclusion is brilliant because it injects this otherwise static stone monument with a tremendous sense of kinetic energy and forward momentum.
Moving right along to Section 2, Masterpiece of Kalinga Architecture, Visual Details.
So the entire aesthetic vibe of this temple relies heavily on its structural alignment with nature. It is oriented strictly in the east-west direction. And why? Because the architects literally wanted the very first rays of the morning sunrise to physically strike the main entrance. They used the actual light of the sun as a dynamic, changing design element. I mean, how perfect is that for a monument dedicated to the sun god?
Now this is wild. It's totally fascinating how the temple's building materials ended up giving it 2 vastly contrasting historical identities. It was constructed from condylite rocks, which have this distinctive, very dark color. So locals and worshippers revered it as the Surya Devalaya, the divine radiant sun temple. But European sailors out at sea, they saw this towering, dark shape looming on the coastline and ominously named it the Black Pagoda. In fact, its dark silhouette was so imposing that legends actually claimed it magnetically drew ships into the shore and caused shipwrecks.
Let's zoom in a bit on the micro-texture at the base, because this really shows why it's considered the absolute pinnacle of Kalinga architecture. That dark condylite stone is just covered in these intricate carvings that really bring the vast scale to life. We're talking animals, lush foliage, warriors on horseback, and these incredibly elaborate, detailed scenes from Hindu mythology. The contrast between that imposing 100-foot structure and these delicate micro-level details, it's just remarkable.
Which brings us to Section 3, the Wheels of Time, Functional Mechanics.
Okay, so this next part is where it gets really crazy, because all of these components, they aren't just there to look pretty. The chariot acts as a precise calendar and timekeeper, literally representing the Kala Chakra, the wheel of time. Those 24 wheels are deeply symbolic. Some interpretations say they represent the 24 hours in a day, while others think the 12 pairs represent the 12 months. But here's the kicker. These massive stone wheels physically function as incredibly accurate sundials. By tracking the shadows cast on the spokes, you can calculate the time accurately down to the minute. And those 7 horses pulling the whole thing, they symbolize the 7 days of the week. It is just this seamless, brilliant merging of visual art with advanced mathematics and astronomy.
And finally, Section 4, an enduring visual legacy.
Tracing its journey through time really shows its enduring cultural power. I mean, it was built way back in 1250 CE, right? And its sheer visual and historical significance was globally locked in when it was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1984. But it's definitely not just a museum piece or a relic. Today it remains an active, vibrant site of contemporary Hindu worship during the annual Chandrabhaga festival. Its imagery is held in such high regard that a massive replica of the Konark wheel even served as the backdrop when the Prime Minister of India welcomed global leaders at the G20 summit.
In fact, the iconography of this temple is so powerful that the 24-spoke Konark wheel is literally woven into India's modern identity. It was adapted directly into the country's national flag. Think about that for a second. That ancient carved stone wheel from the 13th century now flies high every single day, acting as this supreme visual embodiment of India's ancient wisdom, its advanced civilization, and its absolutely unmatched architectural excellence.
But beyond just historical pride, the motif of that rotating wheel carries profound meaning today. It's a deeply powerful visual metaphor. Yes, it symbolizes the Kala Chakra, time itself, but it also represents continuous change, societal progress, and the unbreakable resilience of democratic ideals. Often referred to as the Wheel of Democracy, it visually showcases a deep, ongoing commitment to moving society forward.
And this incredible endurance leaves us with a pretty wild final thought to ponder. If a 13th century stone wheel can so perfectly capture the infinite passage of time while simultaneously representing modern democratic resilience today, what monuments are we building right now that will speak such a profound visual language 800 years into the future? It's an absolutely remarkable legacy of stone, scale, and time. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope you never look at a sundial or a stone chariot the exact same way again.